I'm not a fan of a lot of the stuff that I was involved in making. I'm not.
A lot of people love Hell on Earth. A lot of people
I hate it.
really.
I hate it.
I'm not a fan. I did a retrospective review and I was like, this thing is just it reeks of like 90s. Make this like a hardcore film.
It is. It's an MTV movie. It's very MTV. It's very.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen. If we could go back in time and put Tony Randall back in the position of directing that, I think would have been curious to see, because I'm always amazed how one follows two and they're such a 1-2 punch and they feel like the same movie. And it's a real shame, because again, like I say, every time I've been involved and just to let people know, in the last 10 years, I've read a plethora of remake pitches and reimaginings of Hellraiser from a lot of writers, some big, well-known writers. And unfortunately, whilst the ideas have been very good, and they have been good, and they were very exciting for a Hellraiser fan, they were very, very grandiose. Most writers tend to write things to be, the sky's the limit. So they read like $25-30 million horror films, and Dimension, or any company has to look at what's their return going to be. So in order to make a $35 million, $40 million horror film, you've got to make $140 million at the box office. And these films do not traditionally make that. So, you need to make it for 8 or 9 million, the kind of the Blumhouse, model of making films. And that's where it needs to be, I think. That's how it should move forward, I would hope, is that if they were going to do a reimagining or a reboot or something to really give it a chance of being cinematic, then they need to spend about $8 or $9 million and go theatrical with it. But no more than that, because then that's why the Saw films every year were made for about $12 million. That was the cap on their budget. And even though the films made a lot of money, and and the writer directors of each one were like, oh, next year then, since it made $100 million, will you give us $50 million to make the next Saw? And they'd be like, no, we're going to make it for the same budget as we did last year.
Well, it's guaranteed money then, isn't it?
Guaranteed. They know what they were going to make. And they made the same amount of money every year. It's like Halloween. I can tell you what Halloween's going to make. We know what Halloween's going to make, right? We all know what the budget, what the box office will be for the next Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Because we can see that, it's not going to make $200 million.
No. Even with the returning stars, it's not going to happen. It just doesn't happen with this genre of movie anyway.
Look, honestly, talking about Halloween, you have to understand. It's so funny to me, right? Look, at a horror convention, Jamie Lee Curtis will absolutely get everyone very excited. And the idea of Jamie Lee Curtis coming back to Halloween is very, very exciting to me, to you, to horror fans. Trust me. To 19-year-olds in the world today,
they don't give a crap.
Listening to Cardi B and and eating Tide Pods, they don't know who the fuck Jamie Lee Curtis is, and they couldn't give a hoot. Do you know what I mean? They couldn't give a fuck. They don't give a shit. All they care is it going to be spooky and scary and blah, blah, blah. And if you say, oh, that classic 1978 movie, they're going to go, what, that old movie? That old movie? Do you know what I mean?
That one that's on repeat on a Saturday night or something like that, on Halloween itself and stuff,
Yeah, honestly, you have to understand that if you're looking to market a horror film to 18 to 25-year-olds, Jamie Lee Curtis returning in it, they're going to go, what, that old woman? That's how they're going to think. I'm not saying Jamie Lee's old, she's not, but anyone over 40 to an 18-year-old's old.
No, you're right.
It's a business, guys, and you have to understand, you either want to be in the business making films and working in the industry and having a career, or you want to bring your kind of opinions with you and never work again.
Well, I guess that kind of.
And here's the real fun for you. Here's the real fun for you guys, is that if you like Hellraiser Judgment and you like the audit sequence, you like the Stygian Inquisition, you like all that stuff, I had 3 phone conversations after the film was completed where I would get on a conference call and you'd get this. So, Gary, we were just thinking, maybe we could lose that whole audit thing.
Fuck. No.
It's a bit weird and a bit creepy. And I'd be literally on the phone, literally on my knees going, please, I am begging you. Well, just cut it down then. Cut it down to 4 minutes. I'm going, 4 minutes?
God damn.
The original cut was a bit excessive. It was about 25 minutes.
That is something I would like to see.
I actually have all the footage, and I could actually do my own cut. That would be really indulgent. Trust me. The licking scene was a lot more detailed. There was a lot of areas explored, if you know what I mean. But you do have to kind of like you have to pick your battles and pick your fights. And I think if I was to do another one now, another Hellraiser film, and who knows, maybe I will get a chance. Probably percentages, I probably won't get the chance.
Do you think?
But if I did, it'd be a much easier fight for me to go in and say, guys, look what people reacted to. Let me off the chain a little bit.
Yeah.
Let me do something original and new and a bit different, and and let's work on the other story as well, and let's do something that's even more Hellraiser-y. And please just trust me a little bit, because luckily Bob Weinstein had a great reaction to the film. He did.
Really?
Bob. I mean, Bob actually personally called me. He's never called me about anything, and I was driving. I was driving to Anaheim one day, and the phone rang, and a woman's voice said, "I have Bob Weinstein on the line for you," and I was like, "What?" And Bob's opening line was, "I fucking love this movie." He said, I said, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, I love it." He's like, "It's like a descent into hell." He's like, "It's really good." He said, "I think you should have like an electronic soundtrack as well, something like Trent Reznor." And he was excited. He was like, "Look, we don't have much money to spend on it." He said, "But we'll help you as much as we can to get it finished." He said, "But I just wanted to let you know I'm really thrilled with what you've done. I don't know how you did it for the money," he said, "but and I was like, "Yeah, great. Maybe you should let me do it 10 years ago." And he's like, "Ha ha 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 ha." But it was kind of funny. But he actually enjoyed it, And then he said, "I think I want to show it to Quentin." And I was like, literally, I almost shot my load in my pants at that point. Maybe he meant Quentin, the guy who cleans his plants or something. I don't know, but one can but hope.
But so even off the back of that, you don't think you'll get a chance to do another, or?
If I have learnt one thing, Mr. H, in this industry, is never anticipate anything.
Yeah,
you will inevitably be disappointed. Expect nothing for your birthday, and whatever you get will be a nice surprise.
Gauge expectations, right? I guess.
I have no expectations, especially in this.
None.
Because honestly, it's not up to me. It's not. There are so many things that may hit and fall, and I mean, and really, my being involved in the Hellraiser series for so long is pure determination. Really, when I did Hellraiser 5, there was no money. I made nothing on that film. I did it for free. So many times, had I done Revelations, if I'd have done Revelations, I would have taken my director's fee and my writer's fee, pittance that they were, and said, let's give that to Doug Bradley. And everyone would have gone, really? And I would have gone, absolutely. Look, it's like, don't offer him this amount of money. Offer him, let's offer him a decent amount of money, because without Doug, it's going to be really, really hard, and Doug's going to be Doug's voice and Doug's persona and Doug's characterization is the backbone of legitimacy for these films, especially when they're low budget.
Yeah.
He gives some credence, and I really believe. I don't know. What's your opinion? Do you not really think that if we'd have had Doug Bradley in it, we would have been a little bit more critic-proof?
Of Judgment or Revelations?
Yeah, in Judgment.
Both. Well, definitely.
No, not Revelations, because look, and I don't want to attack Victor more than I ever done already. I think Victor, maybe it's because of his a different language and a different nationality, but I think his perception sometimes of performances is a little bit askew, because I think the performances in that there's some of the people in that film are credible actors who've done some great work in other films. I think they were let off the chain a little bit and were a bit big, you know what I mean? A bit OTT. And he cast his own girlfriend, and she's definitely a bit too over the top. And there were some choices made in casting that didn't work. Stephen Smith Collins physically just isn't the right guy for it. Yeah. So, I really do believe, though, if you'd have had, some better actors and a different take on it, it might have been a better film. And if Doug Bradley had been in that, he would have rooted it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not suggesting this in any way, but I remember talking to Demi Moore, name drop, and, we talked about A Few Good Men, and she said, Nicholson rooted everybody in that film, in A Few Good Men. She said everybody upped their game. And it's true, if you watch A Few Good Men, everyone's really good in it, from Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland, Cuba Gooding. Everybody's really, really fucking good in that movie. Everybody. Because they said that Nicholson came in and did such amazing work. So it raised everybody's game. And I think had Doug been in Judgment and Revelations, it would have changed the persona of it, because Doug brings along like I say, he brings an air of kind of legitimacy to it.
Yeah, well, it's heritage
You know,
as well, isn't it? It's the heritage behind the Hellraiser franchise. I think you are. I mean, you are definitely right. Like if the trailer had dropped and Doug Bradley would have been in it, everyone would have lost their minds. Like everyone would have gone, "Oh my god!" Especially after.
Like I had an idea the other night. I had an idea for a sequel, and the idea of the sequel was this. Like I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you started doing like if you did another Hellraiser movie, and you started with the auditor doing an audit, yeah.
Yep.
And the candidate's sitting in the chair, and you can't really see the candidate, and the auditor's doing his thing, and he's typing, you know, and he's asking questions, and you're hearing this female voice answering the questions, and he kind of stops his thing, and he just goes, ha, you know, and he says, you know, quite the naughty girl or something like that, you know what I mean? You know, and I can't believe it took us all this time to find you. And then, you know, you turn around to the person in the chair, and she lifts her head up, and it's Kirsty.
Ah, so good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, people would lose their
There
minds.
would be a dry pair of underpants in the house.
Yeah. I've said for a
and then
really
he
long
looks,
time.
and then he looks and says, "And I think I have somebody who'd like to meet you." You know, I mean, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, oh bring it on," you know. Now I just have to find him. You know, I mean, it would be cool, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure. I've said for a really long time that I think, going way off topic here, but I mean, look, it's just a conversation anyway. This is what my interviews are, just a chit chat. But I've said for a really long time that I think, because everyone's issue lately has been basically Doug Bradley's not part of the franchise and he is Pinhead and all of this. And in the comics, Kirsty took the role of Pinhead, and you know, to kind of hopefully a way you could remove people's bizarre bias towards, you know, only one person in the makeup is to have, you know, Kirsty take on the mantle, so to speak. And you know, I would kind of wonder what your, you know, thoughts on that would be, and whether that would be something which you think would kind of work, or, you know.
I think if you're going to do that, I mean, it's like so hard to know, isn't it? It's like Captain Marvel in Avengers. When I saw it as a woman, I was like, what? You know, like, what? To me, a woman? You know, it's like to me there is a. It's so difficult. I think if you were going to do that, I think you'd need a decent amount of money, and you'd need to be able to relaunch it with some credibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm saying in like an ideal world, absolute ideal scenario. You know, if you were to have Kirsty Cotton take on the mantle, rather than, you know, if you're going by the fact that the Hell Priest is, you know, is a mantle in hell as opposed to one specific person. You know, and then you would have Kirsty Cotton come in and kind of take over that mantle. Do you think that would kind of remove the issue of people?
Honestly, what you're talking about is the classic problem that everybody has with all this stuff. Is that you know, I'm not gonna parlay myself into some kind of like great writer. I'm sure that people are going to be, it would hunt for blood for me. But I will tell you this: I've written quite a lot of scripts, a lot of ones that people don't even know I wrote, and I was a ghostwriter for a couple of years, and wrote on several scripts that were made into large budget films, and I've had other films made. So I know the 3-act structure, and I know McKee, and I know my stuff. You know what I mean? And you can slag me off and say, "Oh, you do terrible dialogue" or whatever. But you know, I've made a living doing this. So hate my scripts or love them. I can sit in a house that I own and say some of this was paid for by being a screenwriter. Yeah. So what I would say is that a lot of the biggest problem you find in movies, or not movies, but amongst the general public and fans, is that people have great ideas. Yeah. And great ideas don't make great stories. You know, they don't. It's like, well, that's a great idea, but how does it work? What's happening in the second act? You know, how does that build into the characters of the first act? What's happening in the second act? What's the character arc? And what happens in the, you know, what happens at the end? How does this affect the people in the world? What's the reaction? You know, like, you know, how does this affect people in the world? Why are they worried by this? Why do I care? All the classic stories that producers and other screenwriters will ask you, you know, why do I care? What's the big impact on the world here? You know, is it a device that's going to destroy the planet? You know, and why do I care about this character? And how does he change from the beginning to the end? And what's his motivation? And all this kind of stuff. So good ideas, like, you know, when people go, you know, it'd be cool was if Jason and Freddy and Pinhead had a fight. It's like, well, yeah, that's the last 5 minutes of the movie, but what's the story for the rest of it? You know, yeah. How do we get to that point? It's like people talking about the Hellraiser Origins trailer, like it's some kind of like, you know, magnificent betrayal that those poor guys should have been allowed to do. It's like, what are we talking about here? It's an image of a guy opening a box and then a shot of hell and a guy saying "Welcome to hell." That's not a story. That's not a pitch.
Yeah, it's
that's
just visual. It's just
a picture. You know what I mean? I've got lots of pictures that I can show you that fine. But and any studio executive is going to go, well, that's great, but what's the story, dude?
Yeah.
Like. That's why when you hear the story of Hellraiser, you go, "What a great story!" Like, so there's this guy, he's a seeker of weird sadomasochism. He finds this mythical box, opens it, and these Cenobites, these characters come and give him the ultimate experience in pleasure and pain. And then his brother, who he was having an affair with his wife, spills blood in their house and resurrects him. And then basically he hooks up with his ex-girlfriend, the wife of his brother, who he's not really into, and basically gets her to kind of kill on his behalf so he can get himself back and escape these Cenobites, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a great twisted love triangle. It's like, there are the three acts, like, this is going to happen in the first act, this is going to happen in the second act, this is going to happen in the third act. Yeah. And that's why it works, because it's got a great story to it. So these ideas of like Kirsty in getting back the crown or being pinned, it's like, yeah, that could work, but it's like, what's the story? Where's she been? What's she doing? And why is she in hell? And what's happened to her and those kind of things. So it has to be a good story. Because I've always said, I've said this and maybe it's been heard before, but I always think that horror films are like, they're like a cake, and the horror stuff, the character is just a little icing on top. And if you make, so if you take a Nightmare on Elm Street story and then the icing on the cake is Freddy, or a Hellraiser story and the icing on the cake is Bennett, if you make it with too much icing, it's sickly and it doesn't work.
Well, it loses all
impact. It should be just the right balance, Yeah. And that's why the first Hellraiser works, because it's like, it's 6 minutes of Bennett, of the Hellfreak.
I'm so glad you said that, because my God, everyone, and this is just to anyone listening, and I'm just expressing my frustrations, is that everyone's been banging on about how little Pinhead is in Judgment. Go back and watch the first one, for goodness sake.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
6 minutes.
Go back and watch the first. Barely says a word. They barely do anything. But the screen time that they have is impactful. And it resonates. And then you go, oh my God, who are these? This is awesome.
Also, right, you have to take into consideration this. We're talking about 1987 pre-internet, right? And pre-design. It's like people watching these trailers and going, and they mention characters that I don't even know. They're like, oh, well, that looks like so-and-so from that video game, or that looks like so-and-so from that graphic novel. It's like, in 1987, you didn't have the amount of graphic novels or comic book art or pop art or just people drawing images and putting them out there that we did have now. Now there's a plethora of Pinterest and everything else of just brilliant artwork being done by people and saturation. And when you're looking at a canvas of 2 eyes, a mouth and a nose, there's only so much you can do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was designing Cenobites, it was always a real problem because it's like, is this original? Is this new? When I designed Angelique, I mean, it was like, to me, that was a home run. It's like, oh, I got it right with this design, you know what I mean? And it was very fast and very quick. But you can't have those moments all the time. And so now, it's like someone could look at the surgeon and say, oh, really? Gimp suit and a fucking gas mask? It's like, well, you know what? I didn't have much money, and I've always thought there was something inherently insect-like and creepy about a gas mask, so why not? It wasn't trying to pick up. Yeah, right. It was like, but it's working with what you've got in the medium you've got. It's like nudity. People can condemn the jury and say, oh, why they're naked. It's like sometimes nude naked flesh is far more interesting than a bad costume.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make something, it requires it to be made. Otherwise, most wardrobe departments on low-budget films, when they have a couple of $1,000s, will literally go, what do you want to see this in? And they'll go down to Walmart or down to Big K or wherever to try and find some clothes in the store. Okay. You know what I mean? And the clothing of hell isn't really found in those local shops, so it's like, make them naked. It'll be far more interesting. I mean, originally, the cleaners in the film originally were supposed to be in their 90s. They were supposed to be really old. And it was a bit of a tip of the hat to the 3 crones from Macbeth, But I wanted them to be really ancient. Like, I mean, again, when you're lying in your bed at night thinking of stuff that's really creepy and nasty, you can think about, people being chopped up with a knife and think that's creepy. Personally, my biggest nightmare would be being, chained down to a bed and having 3 old ladies lick me clean. I think maybe there's a little bit of that kind of when you're a young kid and the grandmother comes and gives you a big kiss, and you're like, why is she kissing me? It's almost like Bill and Ted 2 Bogus Journey with, Granny, when she's kissing you right here on the lips. It's like that. It's like, can you imagine having an old lady licking you in your most intimate places and then pouring their spit down your throat? It's like nothing could be worse in my mind. So I was trying to do body horror, Cronenberg-esque, weird, creepy body horror. And you have to work within the limitations you've got. And like I say, 87, we'd never seen anything like the Cenobites. Now, if you did anything like that, people would be like, I've seen it before. It's like back then, piercing of the, it's like, again, wind back the clock to 1987, and you look at someone like the female Cenobite. Now, for fuck's sake, there are people hanging themselves up by hooks from their backs in their garages.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can go and see Stigmata and see people literally suspending themselves from hooks and chains. The world has changed. The world's a bit different, and so often I sit in these meetings with producers and executives, and they say, it'd be really creepy, it'd be this, and I'm like, they're telling you something, and you're like, really? Have you seen what's going on in the world? You know what I mean? Like, that's not creepy, that's not weird, that's not scary. In 1990 it was. So it's a different world and a different appetite, and to freak people out now is a lot harder, and to show them something completely original, very, very difficult. And even less so on a budget. I mean, look, if you gave me a big budget, I know the names I'd call up tomorrow to get them involved. I'd call Stephen Knighton, I'd call Paul Catlin, I'd call Miles Tevis, I'd call Gino Acevedo and various designers I know and say, hey, right, guys, meet me in this office, and we'll sit there for 3 weeks and we'll do sketches and drawings and come up with some new concepts. And let's come up with some really, really radical stuff. But I guarantee you, then you'd sit in front of the studio and they go, oh, well, this is a bit, can't we do something that looks more like this?
Well, it goes back to all that thing about making money and... Well,
again, it's a question of making money. It's a question, there's a border where an audience finds something acceptable because they recognise it and they feel comfortable with it, and then introducing... It's also, at the end of the day, Mr. H, it comes down to this. Really, the truth of it is, you can have a great design or a poor design, but it comes about the context of the film and how you interpret it. What I mean by that is this. I'll give you a really good example of a design that was hated. And I mean hated, and there were comments all over the internet about this design. And then when the movie came out and broke, and the movie was great, people then embraced it, and it became the #1 Halloween costume. And I'm talking about it, Pennywise. Now, when that first design was revealed, and that costume with Bill Skarsgård in that costume, man alive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, YouTubers the world over and horror fans were like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? And now, good Lord.
Well,
why?
Cosplays and everything, yeah.
Because he's really great in the role. And because Bill Skarsgård gave his 100%, and it was a great script, and it was a good film, and it was well made, and that turned people's opinions. It's like The Auditor. People looked at it earlier on and said, well, what the fuck's that? You know what I mean? And now they like The Auditor. They're like, oh, he's kind of cool. Why? Because you get to know who he is, and you get to be intrigued by him. Yeah. So it's weird how these things change when people have seen it and what their personification of something is. Now you can't just show a guy in a flesh mask carrying a chainsaw. It just wouldn't work. It's a different time, and that's what makes it difficult. So yes, it's a great idea with Kirsty Cotton, perhaps getting the mantle of Pinhead. But I mean, I really think it comes down to a satisfying story. If it's a satisfying story and it works and the 3-act structure is good and it's just an enjoyable movie, then I think you could present an audience with anything. Anything, anything at all, because it's all about the consumption of the meal. What you're talking about is the wafer at the end, the chocolate minty wafer. And that's either good or bad based upon how good the meal that you had before it was. It's either going to be like, oh really, chocolate wafer? Now you're going to be, after all of that, after that shit you've just given me, 3 courses of dog shit, you're going to give me a chocolate wafer. Great, like really, I could have done with that, 2 courses ago. Or it's going to be, oh my God, really? After that sumptuous, exquisite meal, just beautiful, a chocolate wafer. Fantastic. And I don't know what there is, but again, I think with a higher budget, you could, a bit more prep time, you could iron out the creases. I mean, again, if we had more money and more budget, what we would have done with Hellraiser Judgment, quite obviously, is we would have screened it for test audiences. You know, we would have got their notes, and I would have looked at it and gone, and then the studio would have gone, "Hey, Gary, here's $500,000. Go back and shoot this, and this. Let's change that. Let's add this. Let's put that in there." And then we would have screened it and tested it again, and gone, "Oh, okay, now it looks like the scores are higher, you know, and right, let's do a really great campaign, and then let's go theatrical." And Bob's your auntie's living lover. You know? Why?
Kind of going back to just judgment on a whole is why did it take so long for it to come out?
I've no idea. We were hurried through the shoot, and I think the obligation for the right issue was, and again, just to get the rights issues things. I know everyone likes to harp on about these rights issues. Trust me, lots of films in Hollywood get made for rights issues.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Know, because they're about to close on their options deal. It happens all the time. It's just not known about. It's not talked about because it tends to be a bit of a black, sour mark on the film before it comes out. But it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But we were hurried through post. They were like, get it done. And we got it done. And then I was like, so it's going to come out? And they were like, we'll let you know. You know, and the thing is, film companies like a company dealing with lots of product, which they have, they don't just sit at home staring at the wall looking at Hellraiser going, when shall we release it, guys? You know, sitting there in a room. It's one of many products that they're deciding when they're going to release it, you know. And usually with horror films, it's either going to be a fall release or a spring release. So I think it got to the fall and they were like, no, we're not going to release it. And it just, I don't know. Then obviously there was a huge debacle with the whole Weinstein Company issue.
Yeah.
And I think they clearly had other things on their mind. I mean, every time I would call the Weinstein Co, they'd be like, yeah, things are kind of a bit crazy here right now.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to basically do damage control.
Jeez.
And then I think in the fall of last year, I basically wrote an email to one of the executives there and said, look, I'm sure my silly little horror film is the last thing on your minds. You know, what's the story? And they were like, actually, your little horror film's going to come out next year in February. You know, and for everybody who's like, whoa, Lionsgate, I see their name on it. Does that mean that Lionsgate have bought the rights and they're in bed with Dimension, or they own the next Hellraiser? I think what you need to look at, folks, is the fact that Anchor Bay was taken over by Lionsgate.
Okay.
So Anchor Bay used to release all the Dimensions films, and Anchor Bay has been taken over by Lionsgate. So that's the reason why. Because the poster and the advertising and all the stuff that was the trailer was all done by Anchor Bay before Lionsgate acquired Anchor Bay. Right. So that's why. Very happy though I am to see Lionsgate logo on it. Trust me, it's very nice to see it's much nicer to see a Lionsgate logo and a Dimension logo at the beginning of your film than Ralph's Wet Dog Productions. You know what I mean? It's kind of nice. So.
Yeah.
I'm happy about it, but again, no. I mean, once as a director and as a writer-director or whatever you make a film, once you finish your product, it's
out of your hands.
It's like handing your baby off at the orphanage. They don't call you and tell you, it's gone to the next family. You just kind of like,
Done.
I mean, I jokingly said to somebody, I'm sure I'll be the last person to know. I'm sure I'll be like, hey, your movie's coming out. I'm like, what? And it kind of was like that.
So, look, another kind of thing of like people's complaints is that your movie got made and Clive Barker's announced kind of reboot thing didn't. So what's the deal with that then? Again, kind of no holds barred, just going to throw the question out there.
All I can tell you is that I, like everybody else, heard the story, that Clive was writing, Clive had had a great meeting with Bob. And Clive was, usually quite quick to announce when he's had a meeting or whether, something was going into production. And if you ever look at Clive's website, you'll see a lot of projects that have been announced and they're going to do this that have never happened. And all I heard was that a script was written, it was submitted, and it was deemed, to not be shot. Same as there was several versions of scripts I read over the years. I read 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 actually, full scripts, and heard various pitches and saw artwork of various people from Patrick Lussier and Todd Farmer, Marcus Dunstan, Pascal Lugier. There was so many different variations spat out over the years, and Clive was one of them. And
did you read his script?
I read some of it, yeah. Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not allowed to say anything, but.
I had probably the same reaction to the script or part of it that I read as I did to Scarlet Gospels, which was a bit like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be. Do you know what I mean?
All right. That's interesting.
Yeah, but look, Clive's, incredibly successful writer, director, and the creator of Hellraiser, a film that I worship and love. So I mean, if I was lucky enough to get a call to work with Clive again on the film, I'd be there in a heartbeat, and I'd fiercely beat down anyone who said anything negative. Because again, what is written in the first draft and what actually gets shot as a film can be two completely different things.
Oh, so different.
And something being different doesn't necessarily make it bad. And again, like everybody else out there, I have my ideas of what I would think to be my perfect Hellraiser film, and it's not judgment, and it certainly would be something I bet the King and Master could probably knock something out pretty fucking good. So I mean, but even I was a bit like, this feels a bit like Scarlet Gospels at times didn't feel like it was written by Clive. If that makes any sense, it was like, am I reading the writings of Clive Barker here? Like it surprised me. You know what I mean?
Well, I think he was more motivated by a little bit kind of a disdain for what he had already created. I think. I think that was some of the motivation behind that.
I think Clive has a very strange feeling about it. I think he hates it and he loves it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's afforded him a career, but I mean, he's known for that more than anything else. But I mean, I appreciate his other works as much as anything else. I really, really do. But I mean, it's like, well, if you're going to be like that, then don't revisit it. And the one thing I did take from Judgment, that I did take from Scarlet Gospels, was, I wanted to. I'm not religious in any way at all. I'm a staunch atheist, but I've always maintained that if you're going to write in a world that acknowledges hell, then you should acknowledge heaven. And I like Constantine, and I like Prophecy, and I like these kind of like games that go on between. I think it's fun. Like Viggo Mortensen in Prophecy doing his little speech is one of my favourite things in the whole world. And I thought that was an interesting kernel of an idea that if there is a hell and the Cenobites do their thing, then what's heaven's involvement? Are they not involved at all, or are they? And that's when it started to kind of leak into the story. And this is when I get upset when people say, "Oh my God, this is such a rip-off of Seven or something," or there's no stories in here. It's like, really? Like, really? You don't think the idea, the concept that we're basically saying that heaven runs hell or has its fingers in the pies of hell? You don't think that's kind of a strong concept? I think it's a very interesting concept, and that hell is manipulating, heaven is manipulating people on earth to believe in God by using hell as its, propaganda house, if you like.
See,
I thought that was a fucking good idea. I was like, that paints God in a pretty dark light.
See, that's one of the issues that people have with the movie, is that they believe that Hellraiser has never had the kind of concept of like a Christian heaven and hell. They thought that the Leviathan was very much a Lovecraftian entity, and there was never any. Basically, they don't think there's a precedent for what you introduced. And my response has always been, because you'll see it, like I always reply to these, I'm like, yeah, but the Scarlet Gospels have done it, and
absolutely,
and that was the creator of Hellraiser. Therefore, there is a precedent for it. And not only
that's why I felt like I can do this.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, even if you just go back to like Hellraiser 4, the demon princess Angelique is a demon princess. That is still very much heaven and hell right there.
I really just felt like Scarlet Gospels allowed me to adopt the Christian the kind of Christian ideology and Christian story. That's really what I felt, and I felt that it was a strong enough story. Like I said, that's why I get very annoyed with these flippant kind of 14 view reviews on YouTube of people saying, oh my God, the story fucking sucks, dude. It's like, well, maybe you're just not, open your eyes, listen a little bit. Like, you don't think that's an interesting concept? Like, I think it's an interesting concept. And, it came from a very bizarre place. The place it came from was that I have a friend of mine who's got a manufacturing company, manufactures product in a high-end product. And I was at his factory one day and I saw them making some product. And I said, oh, what's this? And he said, oh, that's our knockoff product. And I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, well, a lot of companies now, high-end companies, big companies like Gucci and, Dolce & Gabbana, make their counterfeit products.
What?
And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He said they run the machines, but with a lower quality product, and then they sell it on the black market. And I said, that's bizarre. He said, well, a couple of companies a few years ago were like, look, if someone's going to sell counterfeit product and make money off it,
might as well be them.
It might as well be us. And my attitude was like, so heaven should do that, which is like, look, we've got hell, and they're this seedy, grimy, horrible place, but clearly we should have them, it should work for our advantage. So we'll use them to our advantage, which is they can do their seedy, horrible stuff and, whatever they get up to. But, now and again we're going to manipulate them and let it kind of work in our advantage, which is, put horrible, terrible things out on the earth, and that will make people go to church every week.
Yeah. Because I really like that.
It's like having the high-end restaurant, right? The high-end, beautiful, palatial restaurant that's run by that's owned by that's funded by a whorehouse. Do you know what I mean?
That's a great analogy.
It's like business, but that's what goes on. There's a lot of businesses that are funded by the shitty goings on, and I just thought again it was trying to put some of that mob mentality into this thing and trying to give it some backstory of there. So it's. I thought that was quite powerful and quite interesting, and that's why I like the Jafil character. And I thought it was interesting that she gets involved. Yeah, I can see why people wouldn't like it, and but they are demons to some, angels to others.
Yeah, see, I liked that concept, and I do think it's interesting. Just purely, look, I didn't like the depiction of the angel, but I think that's
but explain to me what you don't like, and let me justify it.
Well.
Why is she wearing a leather pantsuit and why is she a blonde-haired girl?
Well, no, I quite like that.
Sorry?
I quite like that part. That was...
So what depiction don't you like?
Well, no, I mean, if you're talking about... Well, I don't know, really. It's more just the fact that it's very Constantine-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way to kind of say it, really, is it's very much, a simple depiction. But when I reflected on it, I said to myself, well, it's probably a budgetary thing. And also, what do you do? Do you make it really flamboyant?
There you go, right? There you go. You've hit the nail on the head a little bit, which is like you could say, oh, well, come on, Gary, you're creative. Think out of the box and come up with something. It's like, well, you know what? I think when I first wrote the character and put it in there, it was a bit of a page filler, a bit of a kind of like, a stopgap. And I'll come back to this and then it's like I wrote it as a man, and then it becomes a guy in a suit, and then it's like, oh, it's weird. Then it's like you've got a lot of guys in this film and not a lot of women, and it's like someone just slammed me for not writing good female characters or a strong female character. So it's like, and Jafil's actually she's supposed to be kind of like, my idea for Jafil was, this is a character who's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Has done everything from, was at the Garden of Eden to, watching over the Noah's children. And it's like, maybe she comes down to earth, and when she does, because she could take any form she wants, she chooses to look amazing. Like, I'm going to look really, really good. So I went less androgynous than they did in Constantine.
Yep.
And I thought, what? Let's put her in something kind of like, let's make her look like literally, like if you could have done it, then the bad version or the other version would be that you would see a shapeless entity, moving through some kind of void, and then you would see a Vogue magazine on the floor, and it would flip open to a page of, Helena, who's the character who played it, in that suit, standing there, and you see the thing go over it, and it's almost like it says, oh, I'll be that now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she would turn up the next day as something else, like she shapeshifts into what she thinks looks good for the day, like she's trying on a pair of shoes. It's heavy-handed that she's wearing white, but again, I didn't want it to be any kind of like, because she doesn't walk in and say, hello, I'm an angel from heaven. So it's like you have to do a certain amount of heavy-handedness, because the problem you always get is, and this is the real problem writing films and making films, is you are dealing with an IQ range of people from 70 to 150, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
right.
There are some people, you could sit this movie in a room of 200 people, and as soon as she comes on the screen, they're going to go, oh my God, it's an angel. angel. And then other people are going to go, who's the chick in the white suit? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is there a girl in a white suit walking around? And you go, she's an angel. And they go, really? I never knew that.
Yeah.
They didn't say she was an angel. You know, it's like even watching it now, people will review the movie and will give plot points, and they're talking, and I'm listening going, well, that doesn't happen. Like someone said, I can't believe they call him Pinhead in the movie. I'm like, no one calls him Pinhead in the movie.
Has someone said that?
Yeah, they were like, yeah, I can't believe it. Like, how bad is it they call him Pinhead? I'm like, no one calls anyone Pinhead.
That is what? It's not.
It's like people see the movie and then and they'll like I see people giving the review and they're explaining the story and I'm going, well, what? That's not what happens, you know. Like, you know, it's bizarre at times. Like people interpret it. So you're trying to do a movie that's, you know, that's smart enough for dumb people and dumb enough for smart people. You know, it's really tricky. So. I chose to go with the kind of, like I say, that she's taken form of something, and yeah, it could be a bit heavy-handed, but I was a bit like, you know what, it's a horror film, you can be a bit broad-strokey, you know, and so yeah, I understand it, I understand your grievances, and it's very easy, and I could be condemned to go, oh yeah, you don't like it, well what the fuck would you do, you know, and truth is, I should be better than that, I'm a better writer than that, but you look at it and you go, well, where do I go, what are my choices here? You know, she's either a man, a woman, or an animal.
Yeah. You
know, she has to talk, so it's got to be a man or a woman. So, okay, do I do a scruffy man? Do I do an uneloquent man? You know, what do you do? And the truth is, it's a woman, you know. And, yeah, so then the parallel can be drawn between, you know, Constantine.
Yeah.
But if I did a man, it would be, is it like, you know... look at fucking Lucifer in that film. You know, it's Peter Stormare in a white suit.
Yeah.
you know. Maybe again, you know, what was I going to do? Put horns on her head, or put a halo on her. You know.
Yeah, it is tricky. Like what. Yeah.
It's very tricky. It's very tricky because I needed a physical personification. I needed a physical being there. Yeah. So, like I say, it's a man or a woman. If it's a man or a woman, then they're wearing clothes. So, what are they wearing? Is she wearing a suit? Is she wearing something we've made? Is she wearing a robe? Is she wearing a fucking? I don't know. Is she wearing pasties and a corset? You know what I mean? It's like, what do you put her in? You know, and I went down the idea that, you know what, she comes to Earth and she wants to look, because she's the angel of beauty, which is what she is, you know, if you look up the denomination of the angel, I figured she picked the most beautiful guys to come down in, and so she likes to look good, and that's why she kind of says, I hate this place, I hate the smell, I hate what you get up to, you know, it's beneath me coming down here, and, you know, so it's a tricky one, and I admit the failings of it, and, but I still like the character, I still think she's great fun.
I think there was a certain amount of like sass to the way she performed it, which I found quite. I liked that performance side of it.
The only thing I would have changed, I liked done differently about it is honestly, there was a different line when she gets torn apart at the end. There was a different line, and we got there, and I was watching the scene take place, and she was giving this line of like, I can't even remember what the last line is. I think she didn't say anything. She just laughs. And then I went over and whispered to her and said, "Say this." And she was like, oh my God, that's great. And here's the thing, is that line polarizes. Some people go, and there are reviews where people go, I love that she says that line. It's like, it's a throwback, it's a homage, it's so fucking cool. Yeah. And then there are other people like, how dare you? How dare you? It's so insulting to the original film. And I get it, I really, really do. But I would slightly love to have changed her delivery, and I tried to get it on the day, and Helena, who's a great actress and did a great job, and I love her dearly, but she didn't quite get where I was coming from, because it was a hard piece of direction. And the direction I said was, I want you to say Jesus wept, but I want you to say it like you were there and you saw him weep. You know, and when he wept, it's because he was a pussy. Do you know what I mean? So she would have gone, Jesus wept. Like, but I'm not going to weep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus wept, you know. But you go ahead and do this. Because she knows she's going to get reborn. You know, she's not going to die. It's only her physical self that's being ripped away.
Oh, that was... Yeah. God, I had a debate with someone in the comments section about this, about the fact that how can the Hell Priest kill an angel and all of this? How can Hooks kill an angel? And I said, well... That's
his naivety.
I was like, it's not. There's nothing stipulated that the angel is even dead. Like
She's not.
There's a few ways that it could go. You could say that obviously the hooks are an instrument of hell, therefore there is a certain amount of leverage over an angelic being, therefore that's how it could happen. But then there's the other thing that dictates that nothing even said that she had died. Just
No,
that the
she's
form
not
had
dead.
been
She's
pulled
not dead
apart.
at all. All
Yeah.
he's doing, he's smashing the vase. That's all he's doing. And that's his naivety. His naivety, of course, is that, he's probably been in hell, a couple of 100 years maximum. She's been around for thousands of years doing this shit. You know what I mean? She's going to see a new priest. And that's why the auditor knows. That's why the auditor's like, you don't want to fuck with her. That's why, when Pinhead first chains him up and we get that reaction of the auditor, like, yeah, probably don't want to do that. That's probably a bad. You are fucking with a big power here.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a fun power shift. But no, I'd always imagine that it's purely just a stripping of a destruction of the physical shell that she's got, and that's why, like I said, I thought it was funny that she's laughing because she's almost enjoying it, and like she's just like, yeah, Jesus wept, like Jesus wept, I'm not gonna weep, and then he tears her apart, and that's when the auditor says, originally the auditor says, naughty, shouldn't have done that, and they took the naughty line away from me, They said no, it's too comical, but I thought it was funny, But no, the idea was purely that, again, this is Pinhead's foolishness. He thinks he's got the upper hand in the you don't understand human character. She's gonna, I know, because Pinhead was responsible for bringing Damien, Sean's character, to hell when the box was open, so he knew where he was at the time when the box was opened.
Yeah.
And he knows who else was in the room. He knows because that's what happens when he draws you to hell. Or the transference happens between heaven and between earth and hell. So he knows what was in the room at the time, and that's why he's happy to send him back when he sees the gun, because he's like, oh, she's gonna shoot him. And so he thinks he's got the upper hand on her, and then when he's pissed off her and he chains her up, it's his naivety that he's killing her. But he's if they ordered to get to him early, he'd be like, you don't want to do this. If you kill this one, another one will turn up in his place, or she'll just come back.
Yeah.
Now she'll just come back. All you're doing is destroying the vessel. But you're not going to get rid of an angel. You can't. They're way more powerful than we are. Which is why when she says I've already given my order and it's already been approved, and you actually hear if you listen to the soundtrack, there's actually a sound of a confirmation.
Is there?
She says my order has already been given. Like there's a rumble from heaven, a rumble, like the order has been sanctioned.
Because there's a few things which I think I don't know whether it made it through, or maybe the sound wasn't quite as loud, because a lot of people have an issue with the fact that Pinhead seemed bored when he sat on his throne. And
he's bored. He's a bit bored. He's a bit bored. Originally, when he's doing that thing with the pin, there's supposed to be a close with the pin spinning in his head.
Because a lot
he's
of
almost playing with a pin, But no, I think he is, because here's the deal with that. This is my own personal problem now. Is what does Michael Myers do when he's not killing?
Well, yeah.
Does Michael Myers eat? Does Michael Myers take a shit? Does he? Does he take the mask off when he does that? Does he go to the bathroom? Does he pee? Has he got paint? Does he jerk off? Freddy, what do they do? They're not supernatural. Michael Myers is not a supernatural character. So what does he do? So Pinhead and the Cenobites, this Order of the Gash, who are there to, basically a small faction. Because let's face it, everyone who's going to hell isn't necessarily a sadomasochistic seeker of pain and pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pretty small,
There's not many
small
of them,
faction on Earth. A lot of 55 Shades of Grey people there, I guess. But I mean, what are they doing when they're not being summoned? I mean, and Clive wrote about them being in cells, kind of pacing impatiently. And I always thought that would come off, if I shot that, it would look like they wanted to go to the bathroom.
I also think that people would have a massive problem with that, because they'd say, like, well, you're belittling them, you're demeaning them to
right. They're in cages, and what's going to happen? You have to do a shot where the gates open or something, and who opens the gates? Who open? Is it Lucifer opening the gates? Or do they come up like shutter doors or something and reveal them? Are they frozen when they're in the cells? But to have them pacing, kind of like like caged lions. I was always like, it's going to look like they want to go to the bathroom or something, or like they've got some kind of like. So I just imagine them kind of waiting, like, I mean, yeah, maybe it's wrong to show, but it's like if you're going to have Pinhead, you need to kind of show them occasionally doing something. So I did have him kind of like as this kind of like wearied by the task of what they've been doing, and he's got his couple of girls who dance for him. It's almost like if you watch, probably not the greatest reference here, but Suicide Squad. When Joker meets up with that other guy in his club, and he's got Harley Quinn dancing for him. It's kind of like, if you look, Joker's clearly a bit bored by the whole thing. It's like, or like Tony Montana in Scarface when he's at the dinner thing going, fuck, what's going to happen? Look at all you fuckers. I'm just going to eat and drink, and my belly's going to get bigger, and going to fuck my wife who doesn't love me. It's like, what does Pinhead do? I think he's waiting, and I think there is a slight amount of boredom. I think he does enjoy the sound of the screams around him. He's kind of basking in the pain. But it is a difficult one. And again, here is where you're completely right and where everyone's got a right to criticize me. Then you should have done something better, Gary. You should have written something more interesting and what does occupy Pinhead's time. But then it's like, okay, now we have to build it.
Yeah.
And now I've got to show it. And what does it involve, and how elaborate is it, and can I afford it? No, I can't. So you know what? I can build a cool-looking wooden chair that looks like metal and stick him in kind of a little blue-lit room and hopefully get away with it, you know what I mean? And that's what it is. And he's got Chatterer there. He's kind of like he's dog of war watching over him, and these little floozies dancing, doing their little creepy Cenobite stuff, and that's all I can do. So, yeah, I understand it again, and I'm guilty, Your Honor, as charged. But that's what I chose to do, rather than doing them in cells, in cages, locked up, and then being released when the bell tolls. To
me, it was actually like a nice throwback to the No More Souls. And
absolutely.
And how you were sat around, even in that one.
One phrase I'm going to give you, monastic. Cenobite means of a monastic order, right? So they're like monks. So I chose to portray them like monks. When they're not being called, they're kind of sitting in their rooms, reading the Bible or doing whatever they're doing and just kind of waiting. And that's what I had Pinhead doing. He's just sitting there waiting. He's just waiting for the next, the next call. And if he's been there a long time, I wanted people to look and go, what, is he bored? He's bored, right? Like, again, a bit of questioning going on. Seems kind of bored. Seems kind of arrogant. Seems kind of like he's a bit over it all, you know what I mean? I think he's lost his way a little bit,
But I think as well, I think a lot of people who had that issue potentially didn't listen to the opening properly either. Because I think you also answer that at the start.
They were getting their cup of tea and they were getting their cup of tea and popcorn ready.
Yeah, but you see...
How many times have we sat with our girlfriends or our boyfriends and gone, and they walk in and they're like, and it's like, you want to watch a movie, and you press play, and then that's when they get up and go to the bathroom. And you're like, where are you going? Well, should I stop it? No, it's okay. Let it play. Let it play.
I've just missed 5 minutes.
Well, we're just having this talk about the internet. Oh, she's dying.
Yeah, but I think you kind of answer that at the start by saying, well, the opening conversation, about not being called so much, people seeking their desires elsewhere, and kind of
but I've been slammed for that. Some people have turned around and said, oh, great, so you're going to take the most iconic prop in the last 25 years in horror films, the Lament Configuration, the amazing Lament Configuration, and call it obsolete and irrelevant. It's like, I didn't, it's like, I'm only saying what Pinhead's saying. I didn't say it. I'm not doing away with it. The box, I love the box. Fuck me, I adore the box. I've got them all over my house, for Christ's sake.
You've made loads of them, haven't you? So.
I made the bloody thing. I adore it, and I'd like to expand on it even more. But for this particular device to make the house work, it's like if I don't have them say, and other people are going, oh yeah, so they upgrade their technology by sending out letters. It's like, well, you're only seeing one letter sent out, but the idea would be that there will be hundreds of letters sent out, you know what I mean? And they know, they have lists of all the bad people, and they know where they are. And they basically, they're not just inviting them to come to the house, they're basically saying, we know what's happening. It's almost like offering a reward. It's like, in Florida when they did that thing when they basically told, I don't know if you know about this, but in America they did a thing where they sent out these lottery winner notifications to a bunch of people saying you've won a prize. It's usually like a VCR or something, or a TV, saying you won a TV, you've been picked out, come down to our shop and pick it up and we'll give you this TV. And what they were actually criminals who'd been, they had warrants for their arrests. And rather than going to their house and smashing the door down and having to chase them down, They basically send me an invitation saying you've won a TV, and these people turned up and they'd walk in and go, "Hey, well done! I've got this letter," and they go, "That's right, absolutely, you're Mr. So and so, fantastic. We see your ID," and they get the driving license there, fantastic. Right, come into the back room, pick your TV out. And when they walked in there was 4 cops, and they go, "Right, you're correct." So it was kind of like that, you know what I mean? It was kind of like we're gonna call out to all of the seedy and the people that we want are on our list, you know, and. You know, and bring them in, kind of thing, you know, and then that's why the auditor has prior knowledge of them.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you can say things about tell me about this date and this time, because you think if again all the information's being watched by the Sentinels, who we've never met from the Order of the Inquisition, but the Stygian Inquisition, there is characters called the Sentinels who are watching us in our daily lives and cataloguing all of our sins, you know, so that they then get passed on to the auditor of people to bring in. So there are these strange lens-eyed characters called the Sentinels watching us. So that's what the idea was there, you know, is that that there is a mythology that it's not just one letter in this antiquated sending out of a typewriter to replace this thing. But yeah, I wanted this idea that, how many people now would be seeking that? Because Jesus Christ, you know, most people these days can't even be bothered to go down and won't get in their car, drive down the street to go and pick up a DVD. They'd rather just see what's on Netflix, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
So it's like, if I'm going to seek out some sick, pervy stuff, I might as well just do it over the internet rather than, you want me to go to Tibet and go and find a box? Really?
Well, yeah,
really?
I mean, you're right. You are right. Yeah. I really liked it.
Over the internet.
I thought it was relevant. I thought it did bring it into... It expanded it in an interesting way. Whether it's 100% kind of... Obviously, it's not universally liked, but, you know, I liked it, to be honest. I didn't think it was that bad. I think one of my main issues, or I wouldn't even say it was a main issue. One of the things which I thought was a bit... okay, well, that's a very much like a kind of a paint-by-numbers approach, was that the detective that we'd been following had then been doing all of the kind of murders and crimes, and he was the preceptor. I mean, I think that's another thing that people have a massive issue with, is that it's... Well, yeah, I think that was one of the things that most people have said, oh, well, you know, that's very much a cliche. I guess that's the word they've been using, is kind of cliche. And that's one of the things which I had kind of an issue with.
What's funny about cliches? Because when you ask people that and go, it's a cliche, and they go, oh, it's a cliche, and they go, name me another film where that happens. And they go, what? And I go, tell me another film where that happens, where the detective is investigating it is the killer. Over to you, Mr. Hage.
I'm kind of...
No. Tell me these plethora of movies where the detective is the killer.
Oh, yeah, all right. Oh, dear. Look, it's one of the things that's been coming through, and yeah.
I knew he was a ghost in Sixth Sense, you know. I knew from the 2 minutes in, I knew he was a ghost. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's not so much a cliche, it's not satisfying. You know, I think the audience go, oh, really? Like he's the killer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? Like, oh, yeah. Like, oh, and it feels a bit. It's not so much a cliche as it's just unsatisfying. I think people are like, really, you know, especially other critics of movies are like, the people who make their living shitting on people, you know. Not you, because you're a fan, and again, your criticisms tend to be kind of like considered, whereas the people who just like, you know, especially a lot of movie critics just love to just kind of like, you know, and they did the same thing to the first Hellraiser. You know, you want to go back and look at Roger Ebert's reaction to Hellraiser?
I have.
Endure.
Yeah.
as the pound of tons of feces drips onto it. It's okay. Roger Ebert made films himself, and they were fucking hideous. So it's okay, you know. It's like, look, you know, if there was a tried and true method of making hit movies, then everyone would be doing it. You know, it would be.
There'd be millionaires left, right, and centre.
Yeah, so I don't think it's so much a cliche as it's a bit unsatisfying. People are like, oh right, so he's the killer, and again, it was satisfying to me because I just felt it was like, oh well, if you're going to be he could hide his tracks the best. You know,
Yeah.
and yes, there should be more. There should be more detectives. There should be more people on the case. Absolutely, blah blah blah. But you know, I had what I had to do in it. But if you look at something like even like Seven, it's like there's only one guy investigating that crime at the beginning. I know he's got a team behind him at the end of it, and they're the lead detectives. But you know, you could assume that there are, you know, like the medical examiners working. There's still people processing the crime scene when they're not there.
Yeah.
They're the tip of the spear. But yeah, it just made sense to me as in my little writing world that he'd be the guy to get away with it and could probably cover his tracks.
Yeah.
What it made very difficult for me, and people, you know, if I'm asking for credit, is that scene with the preceptor and the auditor. Is that we managed to get through that without giving away that he's the guy. But if you actually listen to it in retrospect, you can actually see that he knows he's the killer. You know, the auditor knows that he's the preceptor.
Yeah.
That's what he says, you know. I'd like to, you know, and what can you tell? Which is why I had Sean saying, what can you tell me about the preceptor? And he says, I was going to ask you the same question.
Yeah. In retrospect, you can pick that up.
He knows who he is, you know. I mean, I do stand up for the film in some ways, in that I think poorly written films or not quality films, the more you watch them, the worse they get. I think if you go back and watch Judgment, you'll actually see that it can actually be watched the second time, knowing that he's the killer, and go, oh, that's kind of there's some kind of interesting little tidbits of information there, like even about him saying about lights giving me migraines and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Or the fact that if you ever listen in the scenes when they talk about the commandments. Sean's character can tell you the commandment without thinking about it. He can enunciate the entire commandment verbatim.
Yeah. It's super religiously motivated.